Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 53rd part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 284, The Sounds of Violence. Shredder sat on his throne, stewing in anger. Midoriya Izuku. Just remembering that boy's name was enough to invoke anger in the man. The boy had killed his daughter, had cost the foot millions in all the attacks he'd done on them, and threatened to wipe the foot out entirely. And yet despite the anger he felt whenever he thought about the boy, Shredder couldn't stop thinking about him. And of course, the amount of stress this caused him to hate the boy even more. Which only made it harder to think about anything else but killing him as painfully as possible. I just need an opening, Shredder muttered to himself. Suddenly, the door to his throne room burst open, and a foot ninja approached him. "Sir! We believe we've finally found an opportunity to attack Midoriya," the ninja said, before showing him a tablet. On screen was an image of Izuku in his female form, in a hoodie, standing next to Aiko, and a small child who was also wearing a hoodie. "We believe this girl to be Midoriya Izuku in disguise. She's been seen around with Aiko Uraraka, not long before she and Midoriya became a couple. They appear to be at a concert hosted by Blue Blur, a pro-hero whose sister is the head of the Midoriya Foundation researchers. And you've already scouted the area for Midoriya's defense forces?" Shredder asked, feeling his heartbeat faster, burning for the chance to leap at Izuku's throat. "Yes, sir. We found numerous Midoriya Foundation troops, but not a significant force. And the Gamma androids have been spotted on the other side of the country, dealing with violent uprisings by a quirkist group," the ninja reported. Shredder immediately rose up. "Then now is the time. I want a full-on assault. Get as many troops as we can, and get ready for the largest assault in the history of the foot. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Able. I'm hanging on to the other side. I won't give up till the end of me. I'm what you get when the stars align. Now face it, you're just an enemy. Blue Blur sang as he absolutely shredded it on the electric guitar, while his siblings played accompanying instruments. The concert was being held on a flat, grassy field, a good distance away from the city, although it was still very visible from there. The crowd around the stage was pretty sizable, nothing huge, but respectable, and standing near the front were Achiko, Izuku, and Seikyo, with Todoroki and Sori around the middle. Oh wow, they are actually really good, Achiko noted as she listened to the Blue Blur's band, Knock as the Underground, play on stage. Shame it's a bit hard to enjoy knowing we're about to be attacked. Well, at least Seikyo's enjoying it. Izuku chuckled as he looked down at Seikyo, who was doing some serious head banging. My body is moving on its own and I do not mind. Seikyo shouted as she continued to bang her head. So, what are the chances he doesn't take the bait? Achiko asked, holding Izuku's hand. Not big. Our guy on the inside gave us Shredder's real name. After that, we started to use Alice's quirk on him. He's been obsessing about killing me for days. And today he's almost certainly going to jump at the chance to try and kill me. Izuku explained as he leaned against Achiko. Sir. Suddenly someone spoke in the earpiece Izuku wore. The Foot Spies have taken action, and think they are in control of the portal systems. Izuku's body went rigid, and Achiko, feeling that the mood had changed, did the same. It's begun. Suddenly danger sense came to life, and Achiko's body reacted, grabbing Izuku and jumping out of the way, as suddenly Shredder's fist tore through the space where Izuku's head had been and stabbed forward. Immediately, the music stopped, and the people around them started to run in panic. Of course, these people weren't really people. Izuku would never endanger people like that. These were either Midoriya Foundation army members, or what they called LMDS life model decoys. Androids that were indistinguishable from humans, but completely non-sentient. The Midoriya Foundation army came out of disguise and started helping the people evacuate, alongside Blue Blur's siblings, while Todoroki, Sori and Blue Blur himself went over to Izuku. Izuku watched as Shredder's fist quickly sunk back in through the portal, and the portal closed. Everyone, remember the plan. A good distance away, portals started opening directly across from them. And from those portals, came the foot. First was Shredder, then behind him was Scorpion, Subzero, Rain, Reptile, and Cybot, and what looked to be a black android, whose chest glowed blue. And then behind them, was an army. Ninjas, robots, and mutants. Shredder stepped forward. Midoriya Izuku. I have brought to you your death. Have you taken care of the ninjas? Izuku asked. Although he acted like he was asking something more panicky. After all, he didn't want to tip off Shredder that this was a trap. Yes, sir. Portal systems are back under our control, said the agent over the comms. Good. Stand by for orders, Izuku said. Triborg, Shredder said, calling the robot forward. Kill him. Orders received. Commencing termination, Triborg said. Boom. Triborg exploded forward in a massive burst of speed. Okako put her arm in front of Izuku, and Sori rushed forward to try and intercept the android. However, as Sori thrust her claw at the android, suddenly, its body turned into smoke and passed through Sori's attack. Sori tumbled forward, but got into a roll and sprung back onto her feet, as Triborg reformed into a solid mass, and continued heading towards Izuku. As Triborg raised its fist to attack Izuku, Achiko got ready to punch it away. Krakum! Suddenly Raiden came in, striking Triborg in the arm, and sending the android flying to the side. Triborg flew through the air, gaining quite a bit of distance before it hit the tumbling a bit before getting back on its feet and stopping itself. It looked down to see that the arm had been struck, noticing a slash in its armor. Problem detected. I cannot focus on pursuing Izuku Midoriya while this threat is active. Or else this unit will be destroyed. Curses. Fine, kill the cyborg as quickly as possible. Then focus back on Midoriya, Shredder ordered. Orders received, Triborg said, before properly turning his attention towards Raiden and raising his arm. Suddenly a missile launcher teleported onto his arm and shot 4 missiles at Raiden. Seikyo caught the missiles with her telekinesis, causing them to explode mid-flight. So they did make an android using fractals. And a powerful one at that. Damn it. Izuku thought. Raiden, take care of him. Understood, Raiden said. Krakum. Raiden rushed forward as a bolt of lightning, rushing at Triborg. However, as soon as Raiden's sword reached him, Triborg turned into smoke for an instant, allowing Raiden to rush through him harmlessly. Normally this would mean Raiden would keep rushing past until he hit something, however, naturally, Izuku wouldn't allow such a weakness to be overlooked. Raiden, realizing he had gone past his target, activated the stop fractal, stopping him in his tracks. This guy is gonna be annoying, isn't he? All forces. Charge! Shredder shouted. Suddenly he, and all of his forces, ran forward towards Izuku and his group. Blur, Sonic Boom max power on Triborg, Izuku ordered as his foes ran towards him as a massive horde. I have a feeling this one's gonna hurt, Blur said before, dashing away at max speed. Todoroki, Izuku called. Do your thing. Todoroki stepped forward and shot out a massive iceberg that rushed toward their foes at startling speeds. Shredder's eyes widened as he saw the iceberg approaching. He slashed a portal through the air, leading him closer to Izuku, and jumped through. Scorpion vanished in a burst of flames. As Reptile grabbed Cybot and Subzero, and leapt into the air, over the iceberg, while Rain shot pressurized jets of water out of his hands, launching himself over the iceberg. And everyone else was completely engulfed by the iceberg. Frozen and trapped in its clutches, as the iceberg overtook the portals, blocking any more enemies from coming through them. Todoroki looked up at the airborne ninja, and aimed his left hand, igniting it and getting ready to shoot out a wave of fire. Only for Scorpion to appear behind him, sword primed and ready to stab him through the heart. Shoto barely noticed him and tried to summon ice behind him to engulf Scorpion, but it would be too late. By the time the ice reached him, he'd already have been run through. If not for Sori running in and kicking Scorpion in the head, sending him flying away, before vanishing in a burst of flames, mid-air. Thanks, Todoroki said, before turning his attention back up toward the descending ninja only to find that they were using their quirks to cover their descent. Reptile was spitting down acid at them, Subzero rained down freezing blasts of energy, Rain fired down water blasts, and Saibot made clones of himself. Sori grabbed Todoroki and jumped out of the way of the attacks, but this allowed the ninja to reach the ground safely. Alright, you pieces of shit, time to take a nap. Sori snarled, before activating her fractal. With an insane burst of speed, Sori rushed her foes. Too fast for them to see, Sori easily destroyed all of Saibot's clones, before punching the real one flat on his behind, kicking Subzero in the head, and then going for Reptile. Sori delivered a devastating dropkick to Reptile's chest, sending him flying. However, the moment Sori dropped to the ground, and tried to get back up, she realized just how much of a mistake that was. Aga! Shit! Sori hissed in pain, as she felt a strong burning sensation in her feet, making it hard to stand and forcing her to stumble. Crack! In the brief moment of her stumbling, Subzero, still on the ground, managed to shoot a blast of freezing energy at her foot, freezing it. Fuck! Sori swore, now unable to feel her left foot. My body is covered in a thin layer of my extremely potent acid. Attack me at your own risk. Reptile growled as he got up, rubbing his now bruised chest. TCH. Sori lifted her frozen foot in the air and then smashed it into the ground, breaking the ice apart, although she still couldn't feel or move that foot, and the chilling feeling in her bones hurt like hell. You're gonna have to try a bit harder than that. Saibot got up and created more clones, and then, along with Subzero and Reptile, started attacking Sori, while she dodged everything. Now with far greater difficulty her injuries heavily reduced her speed. Todoroki was about to rush in and assist her, but he heard the sound of water to his right, and quickly made an ice wall. A blast of water in the shape of a blade, smashed into the wall, shattering it. Shoto Todoroki. Rain said. I do hope you put up at least a little bit of a fight. Shoto sent another wave of ice towards Rain, and in response, Rain created a drill made of water and smashed it into the ice, drilling through the iceberg and heading towards Shoto. Seeing his ice crack, Todoroki jumped out of the way, as the drill burst out of the ice. Looks like this is going to hold me up for a bit. Damn it. Uraraka, Midoriya, you're gonna have to hold up by yourselves for a little while. Todoroki thought. Meanwhile, Shredder continued to close in on Izuku, Achiko, and Seikyo. Seikyo put up a force field around herself and Izuku. Grandmother, I will protect grandfather. You can go fight. Grandmother. Wait, not the time. Thanks, Seikyo. Achiko said, before running towards Shredder. Seeing Achiko coming at him, Shredder, just before Achiko reached him, slashed open another portal, right in front of Achiko. Re-ee-ee-ee. Suddenly a massive swarm of those Mauser robots flooded out. Huak. Achiko was taken off guard and immediately was buried under a pile of the small robots that tried to bite and scratch at her. Not doing any real damage, but keeping her in place for just a moment. Shredder jumped up and came down towards Achiko, his claws aimed right for her chest. Achiko couldn't see, but danger sense told her exactly what was happening. She raised her hand up through the swarm of Mousers, and then a mass of black whips, winded together, slammed into Shredder's stomach. Pwaff! Shredder's mask fell off, as the air was knocked out of him with one mighty blow. Achiko tossed him to the side with her whips before recalling them. Then she slammed her fist into the ground, causing the battlefield to shake, and kicking up an explosion of wind that sent the Mousers flying off and away from her. With them gone, Achiko got up, back on her feet, and turned her attention towards Shredder, who had also gotten back up. But just as Achiko was about to rush at him again, suddenly she felt someone grab her shoulder. Ha! Get over here! Shouted Scorpion, before teleporting himself and Achiko away in a burst of flames. Achiko! Izuku shouted out in a panic after seeing her vanish. He immediately turned his attention to Shredder. Where did she go? Where did he take her? She is the least of your concerns, Shredder said as he approached the shield Izuku and Seikyo were hiding behind. He stopped and looked at it, looking almost insulted. Even now you hide behind children. Do you think a pathetic shield made by a child could possibly stop me? If it's so pathetic, try cutting through it. Seikyo scowled, looking quite insulted herself by Shredder's remarks. Poof. Shredder launched his fist forwards and sliced the barrier. His claws easily cut through it. But the moment the barrier was cut, Seikyo repaired, leaving them back where they started. What? Cut through it all you want. I'll just repair it again. Seikyo taunted. Clever. But I've played with you enough. Shredder said, before slicing open space again and making a portal inside the barrier. As I said, that barrier cannot stop me. No, but perhaps I can, said a voice from behind him. Shredder swiftly turned around, wondering how in the hell something snuck up on him. And his eyes widened when he saw who it was. You! Shredder! At long last we meet. Giza stroked his beard, looking surprisingly calm despite the fact that he was facing the leader of the organization he'd spent his whole life trying to destroy. All of this began with you. Shredder growled. I will skin you alive and use your pelt to decorate my daughter's grave. And with that Shredder launched himself towards Giza, ready to unleash every last bit of his pent-up fury. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX could only be described as hell. The sky was hidden behind a veil of smoke, the ground was made of searing hot rock, and pools of lava could be seen around her. Scorpion took his hand off of her and jumped back. Welcome to the Nether realm. A hellish domain, completely alien to our own world. This wasteland of fire and brimstone shall be your grave. What, so you're just gonna run away and leave me here? Coward! Aiko provoked. Hoping that wasn't the case because she really didn't know how she was gonna get out of this one. Oof. Of course not. I will see to it you die by my hands. Scorpion scoffed. But first, you must deal with the natives. Natives? Aiko suddenly felt the ground rumble. Hands sprouted out from the cracks beneath the rocky surface, and monsters crawled up all around her. With flesh that looked like a combination of meat and rock, horns, no eyes, and sharp jagged teeth, with claw-like hands and feet. Rah-ha! The creatures roared, as they surrounded Aiko completely, numbering in the hundreds. Aiko grits her teeth and got ready for a long fight. Izuku, I'm sorry. Just hold out for a little bit, until I can find a way out of here. Chapter 285, The Sounds of Violence Part 2. Izuku looked at the battlefield. Sori was still skillfully dodging everything thrown at her by the three ninjas. But with her feet so heavily injured she was put on the defensive, and couldn't find an opportunity to attack. Eventually, she'd start getting tired, and that would be the end of her. Todoroki was dead even with rain. Shoto would send massive waves of ice, and rain would destroy them with water. Whenever Rain tried to get close, Shoto would keep him at bay with fire. Neither seemed to have an advantage, but the battle wouldn't be ending anytime soon. Raiden and Triborg were in a bit of a stalemate. Triborg couldn't land a hit on Raiden with his lightning-fast speed, but Raiden couldn't get another good hit on Triborg, with his explosives and ability to turn into smoke. Giza and Shredder were also seemingly locked in combat. Never had Izuku seen such a skillful battle. With both of them striking, dodging, parrying, and redirecting, with such masterful grace. Neither had managed to land a good blow on the other, however, Shredder had the ability to end it all in one blow, so if Izuku had to say who had the edge, it would be Shredder. And Izuku had no idea how Aiko was doing. Or where she even was. He just had to have faith that she'd be okay. And that she'd come back to them. Triborg's appearance turned everything into a stalemate. Blue blur could change the tide, but there could be casualties before then. Izuku thought. I think it might be time for an all-or-nothing play. Izuku pressed down on his earpiece. Control, initiate Plan B Blitz. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX destroy the whole machine. The Flyman scientist said as he oversaw the creation of a second Triborg, being put together by his fellow scientists. Kaboom! Suddenly the wall to the lab exploded, causing everyone to panic and alarms to go off. Keita walked through the hole in the wall, surrounded by Midoriya Foundation army soldiers and tanks. Alright fuckers, hands up. If you wanna make things interesting for me, you can fight back. I won't guarantee you get to keep all your limbs though. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Midoriya Foundation army soldiers gunned them down. Unleash the mutants. Another foot ninja screamed before getting shot. Ack! A giant lion mutant suddenly started rampaging through the halls, batting aside any foot ninjas that got in its way, as it barreled towards the Midoriya Foundation soldiers. But as it was about to reach them, Gamma 2 flew in and punched its head clean off. Sorry, but there aren't gonna be any casualties on my watch. Gamma 2 smirked, as he took out his blaster, and started opening fire, destroying the rest of the mutants the foot tried to unleash. This base is done. Gamma 1 reported as he stood in a destroyed foot hideout, surrounded by Midoriya Foundation troops who were busy arresting survivors and piling up the bodies of the dead foot ninjas. Moving to assist other raids. Sir! Our bases are being attacked. Shouted a foot ninja to Shredder over their own comms. What? Shredder shouted in shock and outrage. This almost caused him to eat a punch from Giza, but he managed to jump back and dodge it in time. Which ones? All of them. All of our bases are being attacked. The ninja shouted, and now Shredder could hear explosions, screams, and guns in the background. We're being completely overwhelmed. And then everything cut to static. Midoriya. He found our bases. All of this was a trap. Shredder thought, but before he could even start forming a plan on what to do next, suddenly, he found he couldn't move an inch, as his body was immobilized by Seikyo's telekinesis. Guraraghaga. Shredder screamed out in rage, as he looked at Midoriya, his eyes filled with hate. Midoriya! Izuku! I wanted to finish you off before I made any bold moves, but perhaps I should have just gone all out from the beginning. Izuku shook his head. No matter. Finish him. Suddenly, Shredder heard it. The sound of an icy crackling heading towards him. And in that moment, everything made sense. A little over a week ago, Izuku was sitting on a bench, with Giza standing by his side, as they waited in a secluded part of a park at night, where no eyes would be on them. Izuku was looking at something on his phone when he heard the sounds of footsteps approaching. You're late. He looked up and saw Subzero standing over him. I had to make sure I wasn't being followed. Subzero said. They would never suspect me, but the foot are ever vigilant. Well, it worked. According to our devices, you're alone. Izuku said as he set down his phone, and gave Subzero his full attention, before pulling out a fractal. This will make sure the two of us are honest. Watch. I'm poor. Suddenly the fractal turned red. My hair is green. Izuku continued, and the fractal turned green. Do you understand? Yes. Let us get on with it. The longer I'm away, the more suspension could be aroused. Subzero pointed out. Very well. So, what are you here to offer, and what do you want for it? Izuku asked. I offer you the destruction of the Foot Clan. In its entirety. Subzero offered. I can offer information on all of our bases, operations, and details on other prominent members. I know nearly all there is to know about the Foot. My family has been with them for generations after all. In return, all I wish for is a large sum of money, and a pardon for any crimes you believe I may have committed. You intend to live an honest life? Izuku asked, sounding skeptical. Should my request be granted, I will simply have no need for forging criminal activity. Subzero said. I see, I'm not a fan of working with criminals. And I detest the idea of letting them get away scot-free for the sake of my own convenience. Izuku said. However, this is an opportunity to crush the Foot Clan in its entirety, all at once. To all this chance to slip away due to my own preferences would be far more selfish of me. Very well. But let's make this clear, from now, until the Foot is destroyed. You work for me. Subzero fired an icy blast at Shredder, quickly freezing his entire body. What? Rain shouted as he was holding up a water wall between him and Shoto's flames, looking at Subzero in shock and outrage. Subzero, you damn traitor. All I'm doing is leaving a sinking ship. Subzero scoffed. I'd suggest you do the same. But it's far too late for all of you. Boom. 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 Rain heard the sounds of explosions behind him, very quickly getting closer and closer. And when he looked behind him, Bakugo's hand was already in his face. Kaboom! A massive point-blank explosion hit Rain right in the face, sending him flying, half-conscious towards Todoroki, who immediately trapped him in a massive block of ice. One down, Bakugo said, giving the other ninjas a fearsome grin. Damn it all! Reptile looked at Subzero, and shot out a wave of acid from his mouth, which Subzero dodged, before shooting a freezing blast at Reptile, forcing the giant lizard man to jump to the side to dodge it. Boom! 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 And then Bakugo was in his face in an instant, aiming his hand in his face. Kaboom! Another huge explosion burst out from his hand, hitting Reptile point blank and sending him flying, tumbling across the field. Subzero then shot out another freezing blast at Reptile, freezing him completely. Ha! Well, it looks like you're all alone, Edgy. Sori smirked, before realizing she was staring down Saibot and his dozens of clones. I mean, you have clones, but does that really count? Saibot said nothing, before creating more clones and running in the opposite direction. He thinks he can run. Ha! Bakugo smirked, as he held up his hand, and put his other hand over it. AP Scattershot! Small explosions burst out from Bakugo's palm, mowing down the clones by the dozens. Saibot himself desperately tried to dodge each and every small explosion and succeeded, until Sori used her remaining strength, combined with her fractal, rushed in front of him, and then delivered a powerful kick to the face. The black-garbed ninja flew back, landing on his back and skidding across the ground, before coming to a stop, completely unconscious. Meanwhile, Triborg noticed his comrades being defeated, as he faced off against Raiden. Most of our forces have been defeated. Activating. Crack-crack-oom. Suddenly, Blue Blur came in, and kicked Triborg directly in the head, releasing all the energy he'd built up by running all this time, into this one attack. Triborg's head shattered to bits, and a massive explosion of force and air burst out in all directions, sending Blue Blur flying, and forcing Raiden to cover his face for a moment. Once everything died down, Raiden uncovered his face and saw a headless Triborg fell to its knees, and Blue Blur lying on a floor face first. Ow! Blue Blur groaned. Raiden ran to him. Hey, good job, man. You got him. Awesome. Because I just shattered my leg and I would be screwed if that didn't work. Blue Blur admitted, grimacing from the immense amount of pain he was in. It looks like everything's about wrapped up on this end, Raiden said, overlooking the battle. Just need to get rid of that scorpion guy and we're all good. Meanwhile, Subzero approached Izuku. Scorpion, he took Achiko to this Nether realm you mentioned? Izuku asked, trying to hide his panic. How do we get her out? I do not know. I do not even know if it's possible. Subzero explained. The only person I've ever seen leave that realm is Scorpion. Then we'll have to capture him by any means necessary, Izuku said with a look of fierce determination. Crack! Izuku and Subzero's eyes went wide, and they immediately turned their heads to see the ice around Shredder start to crack. Crack, crack, crack. More and more the ice started to crack until... Smash! The ice shattered completely, and Shredder broke free. Rag, hiya! Shredder let out a demonic scream, as suddenly his body started to change. His muscles grew, ripping apart his clothes and turning a sickly shade of pinkish green, as his face deformed. Turning into a hulking, grotesque monster with blades coming out of his arms. For fuck's sake, what now? Bakugo growled as everyone got ready to fight again. Shredder turned to face Izuku, pure hate shining in his eyes. Miyo Ido Oruoria. Chapter 286, The Sounds of Violence Part 3. A few days before the attack, Shredder lay nude on a table, with the Flyman scientist looking over him. This is the device you asked for. The scientist said, holding a device that contained a glowing vial in it. Once your heart slows down or stops to the point where it seems like you're dead or dying, this device will activate and release this new mutagen into your heart. And this isn't just any mutagen. Using what data we could extract from those crystals, this mutagen is the most dangerous version yet. You'll become exponentially powerful, but your mind will be lost, and your body will soon follow as it slowly becomes unable to handle your power. Do you understand this, sir? Yes. Just get this done with already. Shredder ordered harshly. I am aware that there is a good chance I will be defeated by the Midoriya Foundation. Should that happen, I refuse to go down easily. Midoriya will regret the day he made an enemy of me. No matter what. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Izuku, with terrifying speed. Krakum! 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 In a flash, Raiden shot himself towards Shredder and cut off his arms and legs. But as Shredder fell to the ground, suddenly the stumps began to pulse and move, as his flesh began to move and heal. By the time he hit the ground, his limbs had grown back and he crawled back up, continuing his sprint towards Izuku. Seikyo barely put up the barrier in time, but that mattered little as Shredder's fist shattered it like it was never even there, as his bladed fist headed right for Izuku. Ding! Izuku's phone timer dinged, as Shredder's fist and his blades were upon him. Slam! As Shredder slammed his fist down, Izuku was suddenly propelled backward by some invisible force, allowing Izuku to dodge the attack in the nick of time. Izuku let out a sigh of relief. Just in time. Before going to the start of the concert, in case of emergency, Izuku had Sheena use her quirk on him, so he'd have access to the repel quirk. Of course, normally this would wear off before the battle had even started, so Sheena had also put several delays to the effect. Basically, she'd kill his quirklessness, then kill the last effect of her quirk. Meaning that he would be quirkless again until this new effect ran out. She'd repeat this a few times until a sizable delay time had built up. And that ding from his phone had just notified him that the delays were done, giving him access to the repel quirk for the next 9 minutes. Midoriya! Shredder shouted primarily, as he pulled his fist out of the ground and got ready to chase Izuku, only for a freezing blast to hit its arm, freezing it. HHRRRRGH. Arg ha! Shredder immediately turned his attention to Subzero and charged at him. Subzero barely managed to roll to the side in time, avoiding Shredder as he charged past him. Shredder stopped and looked back over to Subzero, who shot another freezing blast at him, but Shredder blocked it, with his already frozen arm. Rag ha! He slammed his leg down onto the ground, causing the ground to shake, and Subzero struggled to keep his footing as the ground broke apart around him. Taking advantage of this, Shredder picked up a chunk of the broken ground and chucked it at Subzero. Subzero tried to jump out of the way, but the ground was so shaky and uneven that he only ended up tripping, and the chunk of ground slammed into him, sending him flying back and burying him under it. Rah! Shredder then smashed his frozen arm into the ground, breaking it off and allowing a new one to grow back. Kaboom! 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 Bakugo came in from above and unleashed a barrage of explosions down on it, destroying chunks of Shredder's body and leaving searing burns all over him, but it all just healed too quickly. TCH. Bakugo exploded himself away, up into the air to avoid a swipe from Shredder. That damn regeneration is getting on my shing. Bakugo went silent, as suddenly, Shredder had shot one of his blades out of his fist, right at Bakugo. Unprepared for this, Bakugo had no way of dodging such a fast attack. And the blade sliced his right arm, clean off. Blood exploded from his shoulder as Bakugo fell to the ground, the shock and pain keeping him from moving. Kaken! Izuku shouted in fear. But this shout brought Shredder's attention back to Izuku, and he shot out two blades right at him. Izuku activated Repel, causing the blades to lose momentum and fall to the ground. Midoriya! Shredder shouted before charging at Izuku again. Izuku activated his quirk to try and repel Shredder back. But all that did was slow them down, as Shredder pushed through the quirk's effect and stomped toward Izuku. Then Seikyo activated her telekinesis, and in combination with Repel, the two managed to keep Shredder in place. Me! Doriya! Me ye! Doriya! Shredder's flesh started to pulse, and his body started growing. Go! Grandfather, he's getting too strong. Seikyo said as she struggled to keep her telekinesis field intact, but it was cracking more and more until. Shatter! Shredder tore through the telekinesis field and charged at Izuku again, repelling, doing little to slow him down. Seeing this, Izuku repelled himself away from Shredder, propelling himself back, away from Shredder, but the monster was too fast, gaining on Izuku more and more until his blades were within reach. Shredder thrust his arm forward, ready to stab Izuku through the chest. Jupiter! Smash! Until Ichiko came in from the side, and kicked Shredder right in the face, sending him flying away. Ichiko! Izuku cried out in joy, tears of relief threatening to leave his eyes. Thank goodness I got out in time, Ichiko said as she breathed a sigh of relief. Back a few minutes ago, Ichiko was still in the Nether realm, running away from the massive horde of demonic creatures that Scorpion had sent at her. Fighting them was pointless. She'd taken down what had to be hundreds of them, and they just kept coming. She'd exhaust herself if she kept going on, which was no doubt Scorpion's intention. Fortunately, Ichiko was much faster than them, and quickly outpaced the horde. Ducking behind a large rock, Ichiko leaned against it, taking a moment to catch her breath. After taking a moment, Ichiko turned to look past the rock, to see if they were still pursuing her. But, as she turned to look, she felt a danger sense go off again. Something was behind her, ready to stab her right in the heart. Ichiko thought about the situation for a second. Shing! A sword went right through her back and out of her front, right where her heart should be. Ack! Ah! Ichiko choked and gasped, before quickly falling to the ground face first, as Scorpion pulled out his sword. That took too long. I must return to the other post haste, Scorpion said as he turned his back. His body began to crackle with fire and glow as he started his dimensional teleportation. And in that split second, before he'd teleported, Ichiko jumped up and punched Scorpion right in the face, touching him just in time. The two of them teleported back to the real world, and Scorpion went flying, landing on the ground unconscious, and bleeding from his mouth and nose. Ugh! Ichiko groaned as she fell to one knee. A feeling of relief crashed over her. Her plan had worked. She knew that the best way out would be Scorpion himself, and he'd probably leave immediately once he thought he'd killed her. So he just needed him to think he'd killed her, and then jump on him at just the right moment. Thankfully, she could make Black Whip come from anywhere. Even inside her own body, letting her move her heart out of the way just as Scorpion's blade ran her through. Still hurt like hell and caused some serious damage, but she could deal with that later. Because she could see what looked to be some kind of monster approaching Izuku. With 50% of One for All's power rushing through her, Achiko rushed towards the monster. So what happened? Achiko asked Izuku, as she looked over the battlefield, seeing Todoroki cauterizing Bakugo's wound. Bakugo. RHHHHHHHHHH. Shredder started charging back towards them. Gamma 1. Gamma 2. To me. Now. Izuku ordered. Krakum. Raiden dashed in and sliced into Shredder's side, but this time, his sword only went halfway through Shredder's body, before breaking. Shit, Raiden swore, before ducking, barely able to dodge a swing from Shredder in time, before dashing away using his quirk. Todoroki launched another iceberg at Shredder, encasing him entirely, but only for a moment, before he quickly broke out. Achiko then rushed in and delivered another punch to the face, sending him flying, before jumping back towards him to continue the fight. Meanwhile, Gamma 1 and 2 were flying above a recently raided foot base, watching as Midoriya Foundation troops cuffed the remaining foot ninjas. Gamma 1. Gamma 2. To me. Now. They heard Izuku order over comms. Alright. Time to put that Shredder guy in his place. Gamma 2 said, punching his palm and grinning menacingly. Yes, sir. We're heading to your location, know what? Gamma 1 suddenly stopped and looked back down at the foot base. What the hell? My scanners are picking up something. This energy is, no. That's not possible. Huh? Gamma 2 looked down at the destroyed warehouse that had once been a base and saw a black orb forming in the center. No way. These readings can't be right. This has gotta be some kind of glitch. The black orb began to shift and change, until finally, it took the form of the corrupted All for One. Villains. Must die. All for One roared as he glared down at the tied-up foot ninjas. What the hell is that? The Midoriya Foundation troops quickly got into formation and aimed their weapons at All for One. Open fire. They all fired their weapons at All for One, but none of them did any damage. Die. All for One roared, as spikes shot out of his body. They would have impaled everyone in the room if Gamma 1 hadn't charged in and tackled him out of the building. Gamma 1 pushed All for One through several nearby buildings, all of which had thankfully been evacuated beforehand, before the seemingly revived boogeyman stopped himself mid-air. Gamma 2 flew down next to Gamma 1, glaring daggers at All for One. Why the hell won't this guy stay dead? He's resilient, that's for sure. But his readings indicate he's weaker than before. Gamma 1 said, pulling out his blaster. We can do this. Gamma 1. Gamma 2. Why aren't you here yet? Izuku asked nervously, wondering what could possibly be making them take so long. Sir, there's been a major complication. Gamma 1 reported. All for One has returned. What? Izuku shouted at the top of his lungs, now completely losing his cool. Meanwhile, Achiko ducked under a swipe from Shredder, before landing another blow to its stomach, sending it skidding back on its feet a few yards. But it simply rushed right back at her. Achiko activated Bright, and her body lit up, blinding Shredder, making him swing at her widely, and with danger sense, it made dodging all the easier. Ugh. I hate regeneration. How am I supposed to take him down if he just keeps healing? Raga! Shredder roared, out of frustration at being blinded, not being able to hit Achiko, or both. Most likely both. Suddenly its body started to bludge, and then blades sprouted from all over his body. Legs, torso, head, arms, everywhere. And Achiko's danger sense went crazy. She jumped back, trying to get as much distance between herself and Shredder as possible. Everyone, he's about to dash. Before she could finish, Shredder's blades fired out of his body at alarming speed, flying everywhere. Izuku barely got his wits about him in time to repel the blades heading at him, stopping them just in time before they could get close to hitting him. Suri was about to grab Todoroki and Bakugo and start dodging, but the immense pain in her legs caught up with her, causing her to trip and fall to her knees. Shit! Todoroki put up a wall of ice, but the blades cut through it like butter, as they continued heading towards the group. Kaboom! Bakugo, with his one arm, shot a massive explosion in front of them, sending the blades flying away from them. He just keeps getting stronger, damn it. Izuku thought. All Midoriya Foundation troops. Code Red. All hands on deck. Labs, I want field drones on both All for One and Shredder doing analysis now. And get more heroes into the fray. This situation had just taken a turn for the worse. And he needed to make sure things didn't go from bad to dire. Chapter 287, The Sounds of Violence Part 4. Okay, critical thinking mode. Ichiko can hold him off, at least for a little while, but keeping that thing around all these injured combatants is a risk not worth taking. Izuku thought. Gonna need to move that fight elsewhere. Open a portal from my location to emergency location B45, Izuku ordered. And open a portal from the Gamma's location to emergency location C22. Emergency locations. Designated spots that were abandoned, unpopulated, and generally difficult for the public to get to. These locations had been acquired by the Midoriya Foundation and were places that the Midoriya Foundation or the government could take fights to when they got too destructive. Location B45 was a small, abandoned island. And C22 was an abandoned town. And get scouting out and analyzing them. Izuku added. A portal opened up nearby, a few moments later. Ichiko. Send him through there. Izuku shouted out to her. Got it. Ichiko shouted as she jumped back, avoiding a swipe of Shredder's blades. She shot out black whips that wrapped around Shredder's neck. Then Ichiko swung herself around, taking Shredder with her, before throwing him into the portal. Quickly Ichiko jumped through the portal herself. Alright, close the portal, Izuku ordered, and then suddenly, Giza rushed past him. What? As the portal was closing, Giza jumped through it. Ack! Damn it! Izuku growled, before talking to his communicator. Giza, what are you doing? My apologies, sir, but I need to see this to the end, Giza said. Otherwise I would not be able to forgive myself for dragging you into this. Izuku was about to point out how outmatched he was when Nizu spoke up over the comms. I wouldn't bother trying to stop him, Midoriya, he's quite stubborn, Nizu said. Regardless, we're beginning to wrap up the foot capturing operation in some places. As such, various pro heroes are now available to you. Good. Ichiko's probably gonna need backup. Izuku said. Sir, we're having problems. Gamma 2 reported. Gamma 1 charged full force into All for One and tackled him, trying to force him into the portal. But as they approached the portal, suddenly All for One's body faded a bit, and Gamma 1 went right through it, before All for One returned to normal. We can't get him into the portal. Gamma 2 said as he shot down at All for One, hot shots destroying chunks from his body, but they just regenerated immediately. And we can't seem to do anything harm to him either. It's like he doesn't have a body anymore. All for One looked up at Gamma 2, raised his hand, and shot black and red tendrils from his fingers. Gamma 2 dodged most of them, but one managed to wrap around his foot. Before All for One could do anything with that, Gamma 1 blasted that tendril, destroying it. GRRRRRR. Kill. All. Villains. All for One shouted. It was at this point the two took notice that All for One's voice was very different. Like an army of voices speaking at once. Strangely enough, All for One's original voice was not among them. All for One is acting odd. It's almost like whatever this is, isn't All for One at all. Gamma 1 responded. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX aside. Start getting medical assistance over here. Get me back to base, and get Achiko some help. Specifically, I want dash. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX mutation in their wake. Achiko jumped over one of Shredder's swipes and kicked him in the face, sending him flying once again. Ugh! Achiko groaned as she took a second to catch her breath. She was so tired. And probably a little dehydrated. Fighting an army of demons in an underground dimension filled with lava and fire had really drained her, and fighting Shredder was only making matters worse. Oh, and the stab wound in her chest was not helping either. Rah! Shredder roared as he charged back at her, not giving her any time to breathe. Achiko got ready to fight once again. And then a portal opened behind her. Move aside, please. Achiko recognized the voice, and immediately jumped to the side, out of the way of Shredder's charge. Bweem! A beam of light shot out of the portal, and slammed into Shredder's face, causing him to fly back, onto his back, his face burnt. Aoyama jumped out of the portal and stood next to Achiko. The cavalry has arrived. Shredder quickly regenerated the damage done to his face and got back up, but as he was doing so, suddenly L-Million rose through the ground and uppercut him into the air. Power! Mirio shouted as he popped up. Then, Miriko jumped in, and kicked the mid-air Shredder, knocking him away deeper into the forest on the island. Phew! Achiko breathed a sigh of relief, as everyone grouped up. Don't relax yet, kid. Bastard's not dead, so our job's not done. Miriko told her. She is right, Giza said, appearing behind them. However, now we have a plan. While you were all being sent here via the portals, Mr. Midoriya sent something else. He then pulled out the Dagger of Destiny. This will allow us to bypass that regeneration of his, and finally put an end to this, Giza said. I simply need you all to create an opening for me. Rah, hi! Shredder roared, as he slammed down in front of them. Now looking even larger than before. I doubt it will be simple. Aoyama sighed. Alright. Let's stun him a bit. Uraraka ties him up and the rat guy goes for the kill. Mirio said, before vanishing into the ground. Shredder launched more blades at them, but Giza rushed forward and used the dagger to deflect the blades. Mirio popped up behind Shredder and kicked him on the top of the head, then, without missing a beat, Miriko rushed in and kicked him in the side of the head. Aoyama then shot him in the face, causing him to stumble back, completely overwhelmed for a moment. The onslaught continued, with Mirio and Miriko rushing around Shredder, delivering swift but powerful blows to the head, and Aoyama shooting lasers at his face whenever he got the chance. Achiko rushed in, and shot out her black whip, tying up Shredder. Shredder shot more blades out of his body, moving around to try and break out of her hold, but Achiko just shot out more black whips to replace the ones that Shredder cut through, all the while Mirio and Miriko still did their hit and run on his head. I can't hold him for long. Giza rushed forward, and leapt at Shredder, dagger ready to end this once and for all. But as Giza approached, Shredder began to glow. Achiko's danger sense went off. Everyone watch out, he's dash. And then lightning bursts off his body. Agha! Miriko and Achiko were shocked. Mirio reacted just in time, phasing right through the stray bolt of lightning. A lightning bolt headed towards Giza, but the rat ninja pulled out one of Shredder's blades that he'd picked up before, and placed it in front of him, causing the lightning to split apart like a log against a saw. Giza continued forward, pushing his dagger forward. And cutting off Shredder's head. The lightning stopped, and Shredder ceased moving. Ugh hi! Achiko fell to the ground face first and passed out promptly. Mirio quickly rushed in to check on her. This is L-Million. Uravati needs urgent care. Understood, thank you, L-Million. Izuku said over comms. Meanwhile, Giza himself was struggling to stay standing. While he had cut the lightning bolt that had been sent towards him, he still got zapped pretty bad when he cut through his head. But he still had things to do. He had to keep going. Giza went over to Shredder's detached head and picked it up. And so it finally ends. A second later, Shredder's body started to bloat. Rapidly it began to expand and deform, until it was just an increasingly large mass of flesh. Everyone, you have to get out of here. They looked up to see a drone that had been watching the fight, and Mai spoke through its speakers. The mutagen that Shredder took was rapidly filling his body with energy. His brain was forcibly turning that energy into mutations, but without that, the energy was just filling up in his body. He's going to explode. You gotta be fucking kidding me, Miriko growled. A portal opened up by Aoyama. Welp, time to skittle. Miriko, catch. Mirio said as he threw Achiko at her. Miriko caught her in one arm, and grabbed Giza with the other, before jumping through the portal in one go. Aoyama and Mirio went next, and then the portal closed behind them. Kaboom! With that, Shredder's body exploded, and the entire island was caught in the blast. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX the island exploded. Using the portals he'd made it back to his office, which was now in what he liked to call overseer mode. With multiple screens coming down from the ceiling and up from the floor, showing him every possible part of the battle. With Shredder down, now he could turn all his attention to All for One. Izuku stared at the villain fighting the Gammas, neither of them seemingly able to do anything to him. "How did you do this?" "I believe I can explain, sir," Mai said through his communicator. "The drones have completed their field analysis. I can confirm that this thing is not quite All for One." The screen in front of Izuku showed the data they'd collected on this fake All for One. This being as a result of all the negative chaos energy All for One had when he was transformed by Sin. When All for One's body was destroyed, all that was left was a mass of negative energy and quirk factors. Normally without a physical form to attach to, it would just dissipate. But perhaps because the energy was too dense, or maybe due to certain quirk factors allowing it to manifest physically, it remained. But All for One lost control. Either because his own quirk factor was weakened by the loss of his body because the negativity was too much for him to control, or both. Either way, what's now in control seems to be a collective consciousness of vestiges taken by All for One. Currently, we are calling this being, Energy Revenant made of angry chaos. Or Ermac for short. I see. So I'm guessing the reason they keep screaming about how villains must die must have to do with their hatred of All for One. Izuku asked. Most likely. The vast majority of the vestiges likely despise All for One and anyone like him. As such, they're currently going on a mindless rampage to kill anything they perceive to be enough like All for One. Namely, villains. Mai explained. Ermac's body is pretty much entirely composed of solidified energy, making him pretty much impossible to harm by conventional means. What about Eraserhead? Izuku asked. While Eraserhead could likely prevent the being from forming or causing any damage, his quirk would be unable to do any actual harm to Ermac. We would be just as unable to harm him, as it would be able to harm us, and once Eraserhead is unable to continue using his quirk, we would be right back to where we started. So what do we do? Izuku asked. Well, Ermac is made up of negative chaos energy, giving him pretty much the same biology and weakness as Yami's Grim or the Shadow Dragons, Mai said. And thankfully, SHE is still in the country. Gah! Gamma 2 cried as he was promptly punched through several buildings by Ermac. Gamma 1 fired down at Ermac, but the collection of souls looked up and shot lasers out of his eyes, aimed at the android's head. Gamma 1 barely managed to dodge by tilting his head, the lasers scraping by the side of its head leaving burn lines. Ermac aimed its arm up. Wind and lightning started to gather around its arm as it prepared for a stronger attack. Pretty cannon. And then suddenly a heart slammed into them from the side, sending them flying through a couple buildings. Gamma 1 looked to see Ribrian standing to the side. The love warrior of France has arrived. Ribrian shouted. Thanks for the assistance. Gamma 1 said, before turning his head to look at Ermac, who was rising out of the rubble. Ah ha ah. Ermac grunted, seemingly in pain, the arm that got hit by Ribrian's attack fully gone. However, noticing this, Ermac quickly reformed it. His energy readings are going down. Gamma 1 shouted as he scanned Ermac. Your attacks are working. Keep on the pressure. Lovely. Machine gun. Ribrian fired hearts rapidly from her hands, right at Ermac. In response, Ermac put up a force field, blocking the hearts from hitting them. Then Ermac charged at Ribrian with an incredible burst of speed, force field still up around them ready to crash into Ribrian. Only for Gamma 2 to kick the side of their shield at full force, cracking it, and sending them flying once again, crashing into the side of a skyscraper. Then, the Gammas in Ribrian started blasting Ermac, causing its shield to crack more and more. But just before the shield cracked, energy started to swirl around all for one. Oh! Brace for impact! Gamma 2 shouted. Kaboom! Kaboom! A giant burst of energy exploded from Ermac, and the explosion quickly engulfed the three fighters, as well as a quarter of the city. The light from the explosion died down after a few seconds, leaving nothing but smoke and a massive crater. In that crater lay the two Gammas along with Ribrian. Ugh hi! Ribrian groaned as she lay in the crater, the world spinning from the impact of the explosion. Reboot sequence complete. Gamma 1's eyes opened. The impact temporarily knocked out his systems. Crap. 2. Are you okay? Yeah. Just finished rebooting. Gamma 2 said, walking out from the smoke, limping towards his brother. My flight systems are down, so's my left leg though. Other than that, my fractal's all good, so I'll live. You? Gamma 1 got up and looked at his damage diagnostic. Flight systems are no-go for me either. But everything else is good. Well, good enough. The two looked around, scanning the area. Did we win? Ribrian asked, still trying not to throw up. His energy signature is gone, for the most part. Gamma 1 explained. There's a trail of leaking energy heading off. But it stops after a few miles out. It's likely that the explosion was just a diversion so it could escape. It was probably afraid of your power. As it should be. Ribrian groaned. But, does that mean all this was for nothing? No, you definitely weakened it. Looks like negativity chaos energy doesn't do too well against the literal power of love, huh? Figures. Gamma 2 sighed. Well, at least this battle is over. But it feels like the war never ends. Gamma 1 said. Chapter 288, In the Aftermath. Achiko waited in her hospital bed. She'd woken not too long ago, but she knew she wouldn't have to wait very long. Knock knock knock. She smiled. Come in. And like clockwork, Izuku came in, holding a bouquet of flowers. Flowers she'd never quite seen before, purple with white shining dots of them. Sorry, it took me so long. I had to get these ready. Izuku said as he came in, handing the bouquet to her. They're special flowers made using fractal farming. They're called cinnamon Milky Ways. Why-oh, Achiko said as she caught a whiff of the flowers. It's because they smell cinnamon. That's cute. I like these. I'm glad. Izuku pulled up a chair next to her bed and proceeded to collapse in it. I'm so glad you're okay. Achiko put down the flowers, before gently rubbing his hair. Hey, I'm not gonna die so easily. You better not. I think I will actually lose my mind. Izuku said, looking at Achiko sadly. Oh, Izuku. Achiko continued moving her hand through his hair. petting him reassuringly as she left his head resting on her lap. Once I get out of here, I think I want to go to the park. I love the kids, but I think we could use some quiet. A picnic sounds nice, Izuku admitted. At night. Get some good food. Nothing too fancy, just comfortable. And warm. And then we end it with some ice cream. Just you and me, you, me, and the bodyguards that is. Ugh, why can't life be simpler? Doing the right thing almost always makes things harder. Achiko sighed. You're probably the biggest source of good and change in the world right now. So all the evils that want things to change for the worse, or even just to stay the same, are gonna pop out of the woodworks and try to kill ya. I just wished it ever showed any sign of stopping, Izuku said sadly. The foot is gone, but Ermac is still around. I still haven't found all the shadow dragons, and the MLA is still at large. And that's just the major threats. But the foot is gone. Achiko pointed out. And from what I'm told, Ermac got weaker. So we did make progress there. But you'd think as the most powerful man in the world, I would be making more progress. Izuku sighed. You're greedy, you know that? Achiko said lightheartedly. Maybe a little. Izuku chuckled. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Knock knock. Who the hell is it? Bakugo asked, looking up at the door to his hospital room. It's me, said Izuku's voice on the other side. TCH. Come in, Bakugo said, sitting up a bit more. The door opened, and Izuku came in, holding a briefcase in one arm, and Katsuki's severed arm in the other. Katsuki gave Izuku a confused look. What the fuck are you doing? I can only imagine how confused you must be, Izuku said, closing the door behind him with his foot, before walking over to Bakugo's bed. I heard your attitude's been improving back at UA. Things aren't the way I thought they were, I'm not what I thought I was, Bakugo admitted, not looking at Izuku. I finally started to get the message that our old schools didn't really teach us shit. But I don't know what's what anymore. I'm trying to figure that out. Well, that's the best I can ask for at this point, Izuku said. Now, on to business. Since you're no longer the person you were, I think I would like to reopen the possibility of a relationship. Not friends. Not now. Maybe not ever, if you don't want to be. But more like a business relationship. You are one of the best upcoming heroes, and such a person is someone I'd like to have working with me. I see, and what the hell does working with you mean exactly? Bakugo asked. Well, I could go into a bunch of stuff that would sound more professional, but instead I'm just gonna get right to the point, Izuku said. I want you to protect Achiko. With your life. Don't think she needs protecting. Bakugo pointed out with a snort. You thought a lot of things, many of which turned out to be wrong. Izuku pointed out bluntly. And I'm not one to take chances. Not anymore. Not with her. For as many resources as I have, you are the one who's going to be working side by side with her as heroes. Be it at school, or on the field. And among all your peers aside from her, you are the strongest. And so I want you to make sure that she's safe. Of course, I'm not asking you to do this for free. Izuku placed the suitcase on Bakugo's bed, and opened it up, revealing a black and red robotic arm. This was specially made for you. It'll work better for you than your old arm ever did. Izuku explained. And what if I said I'd rather have my old arm back? Bakugo asked, looking at his detached arm that Izuku had under his. Oh, that's not an option, Izuku said bluntly. You see, as much as I would love to just pretend like all the stuff that happened between us never happened. It did. And that information is very much public. If I just let this go like water under the bridge, the public isn't going to like that. But this arm. It symbolizes something. You shed blood and lost a limb for my sake. That means something. And if we just put it back on, then all of that will be lost. As such, regardless of your answer, I'm keeping this arm. Are you really just gonna steal my fucking arm? Bakugo almost laughed at the absurdity of what he just said. What made it absurd wasn't that Izuku couldn't do that. Because he absolutely could just steal his arm and Bakugo couldn't do anything about that. Consider it payback for all the years of physical and mental scars I still have to deal with, Izuku said. So do you accept my deal? Yeah, sure, fuck it. Bakugo sighed as he leaned back in bed. Nothing makes any fucking sense anymore, so this might as well happen. Now you have the right attitude, probably, Izuku said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX door. And here we are, Izuku said as he opened the door. Inside the room was what looked like a high-tech smithy. Forge included, as well as a bunch of other old-fashioned and high-tech machines. And laying on a table were two of the blades that Shredder had shot out during the fight. Are you sure you want to do this yourself? Izuku asked, giving Giza a worried look. If I recall, you don't have any blacksmithing experience, and the amount of these we have access to is limited. I apologize for asking so much of you. But this is something I wish to do with my own two hands. Giza said. However long it takes. Very well. I trust you know what you're working with. Izuku said as he turned and began to walk away. Giza walled into the forge, closing the door behind him, and staring at the blades. This would be the ceremony that marked the end of a chapter in his life. Then, Giza took out a piece of paper from his pocket and unfolded it, revealing a design for an odachi. The Midoriya Foundation had many labs aside from the main one. Most of them were in the cities, however, about 1/10 of them would be located in places that could only be described as the middle of nowhere. The public was told this was for the safety of staff and outsiders alike, giving scientists more space to do experiments. This was true, but there was also another reason for some of these locations. That being, it allowed Izuku to do some more shady business. In one of the meeting rooms in these far-off labs, Izuku met with Kaza. Kaza. I want you to expand the Sky Pirates, Izuku told her. What do you mean? Expand? Kaza asked. As you're no doubt aware, I've been opening up holes in the crime community, creating massive power vacuums, Izuku explained. These vacuums will either be filled up by new criminal organizations, or older ones will use this opportunity to gain more power. If that's the case, I'd rather the next big villain group be one that's under MY control. So I want you to expand the Sky Pirates into not just a villain group, but a criminal organization. I see, and how do you want me to go about this? Kaza asked after thinking about it for a moment. Izuku pulled out a briefcase and opened it up, revealing several files inside. He pulled one out and gave it to Kaza, who immediately started reading it. In there is the location of a facility holding various resources, owned by the Midoriya Foundation, of course. Right now both the Midoriya Foundation Army and the Pro Heroes have exhausted themselves after dealing with the Foot. So this is the perfect time for you to pull this off. Once that's done, we'll secretly make you dozens of new ships. After that, you begin recruiting. Izuku pulled out 4 more files. The people I'd like you to recruit have been sorted into 4 groups. The first are people that I would like you to keep as permanent members. They should be both trustworthy and useful to you. The second group are people who became villains but are very clearly in over their heads. Decent people who were either forced into villainy or simply made very poor decisions. I would like to use the Sky Pirates as an opportunity to help these people in some way. The third group are those who are completely disposable and mostly harmless mooks. And the last group are potential threats. I want you to lure them in so we can set them up to fall later. Obviously, some members of the Sky Pirates will have to get captured, otherwise I and the heroes would look incompetent, which is what groups 3 and 4 are for. And you can get some dangerous people off the streets. Kaza pointed out. Exactly. Izuku nodded. Now, the people on these lists should be easy enough for you to keep under control. However, given your track record, I am allowing you to recruit people from outside of these lists, without needing to consult me for the most part. Of course, I'm doing this as an act of trust, both in your loyalty and competency. I trust you know what happens if someone you personally recruited goes out of control. I haven't failed you yet. I don't intend to start doing that now, sir, Kaza answered. My subordinates will obey my commands. I guarantee you that. Good. Now, I will need to give you a new base of operations. I can't have dozens of flying boats in Japan's skies. So I'm giving you this small group of islands here. Izuku said, pulling out another file and giving it to her. And one last thing. Seeing as we're increasing the scale of this project, I thought it would be best if we found a way to give you an increase in power. You will be the leader after all. And my scientists say the best way to do that for you would be via cybernetic augmentations. You want to turn me into a cyborg? Kaza asked casually, showing only a bit of interest. If you want. This is not something I'm willing to force on you, of course. Izuku told her. No need to be so hesitant, I'm in, Kaza said quickly. You don't want to think about it first? Izuku asked her, taken a bit off guard by how decisive she was. Not much to think about. I do this. I get stronger. The stronger I am, the more I can do. Kaza scoffed. Not like this body of mine was good for anything but fighting anyway. You think I win beauty pageants like this, sir? I suppose not, Izuku said, giving her a pitying look. In that case, we can start right away. Although I will still give you a little more time to really think about this. Kaza sighed. If you insist, sir. But my answer won't change. Kill. Villains. Ermac repeated as they stood in an alleyway, over a massive pool of blood that was once a mugger. There you are. Ermac turned around, and Furusuku was standing behind them. I was a bit late, but it's a good thing you escaped before that Ribrian person completely made you disappear, Furusuku said with a smile. Alright, time to go. Snap. Furusuku snapped their fingers. And suddenly, Ermac found their body forcibly being shrunken down and compressed. Ermac desperately tried to activate some of their quirks, but they suddenly found that none of them would work. Don't resist, this is what you want after all, Furusuku said as Ermac turned into a black orb of energy, and continued to shrink. Well, what some of you want. But it's enough. The black orb that was once Ermac continued to shrink until it turned into a small black gemstone, the size of a small rock. The rock floated over to Furusuku's hand. Your wish is granted, Furusuku said. Now do you want to help me get back home a bit faster? Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. You just have to want it. Snap. And with the snap of their fingers, they were gone. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 54. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.